So if the winning team is not equal to no team, that means somebody won. And if somebody won, we can go ahead and stop our score timer handle. This will cause the capture points to stop capturing, because remember we have that check that says, hey, is this timer still running? So they will look to this to know if they should continue capturing. So all the capture points, once from this point on, will be shut down. Now we need to go ahead and notify the players of the winner. Let's plug in a team enum. Okay, let's go back and call it. Okay, let's grab our team that we said was the winner. In here. Right. Cool. Okay, so we got our team. Let's go through all of our players. Player array that we used earlier. Loop through it. Of course, we got to check if they're valid. Then let's get the owner. So this is good to know. Whenever you get the owner of a player state, specifically a player state, and that's what the player array is, player states, you're always going to get the controller. So that's a really handy way to go from player state to controller. Now we're going to cast to that controller. This is the one that we made. Now you can always get away without using a is valid node. So we did it here to check this, but you might be going, well, why aren't you validating this right here? And that's because the cast node automatically takes care of that. So you don't need to do it. Get owner is valid cast. Don't need to do it. So we need this controller to call something. We're basically going to say like handle end game or something like that. So let's go to our controller and let's put that function in there. Okay, definitely know we don't need this. We might need to begin play. So let's do this event. Handle end. Okay, now here's a cool thing. Since we're going to be calling all of that on the server, when you call something on the server and you want it to go down to the client, there's a reliable way we can do this. If you set this to, let's see, run on an owning client, and then you click reliable, it's always going to get there. Now, some people might be tempted to, since they're on the server, call a multicast node, and that's not good. So a multicast node should only be used for things like effects, one-offs, things that don't have to be called on all the players, things that if it's no big deal if it doesn't go off, like an explosion, that should be multicast. Let's say we did something like this that was important, right? And there was a player that was too far, like I'm just trying to think of all the different ways this could go wrong. If they were somehow not relevant, they wouldn't get the call. Or if you did a multicast and it wasn't reliable, I mean, lots of things could go weird. I'm just telling you, this is the most solid way to make sure, besides maybe a rep notify, to make sure that a client is actually getting a call. Okay, so let's actually call the function. So handle end game. Oh, and we obviously need to pass the team through it so you know what on the end game screen whether to put what the winner was or who the winner was. All right, head back. There we go. Let's grab the team. Now, we could get into all sorts of edge cases. So let's say you had a player join. You'll have to decide, okay, do I want to allow players to join when a match is in game? And if so, how am I going to handle if they were to join at the end of a game? And if you were to do that situation, I wouldn't allow them to join in the middle of an end game. I would allow them to they would be like waiting in a lobby or some other thing. But let's say you did. If they would miss this event, obviously, and you would have to put in like maybe a rep notify. Because the great thing about those things is when you join, you could have you could have an enum of what stage of the game you're at. You could say like in gameplay, is end game, is this or is that, and it just go through this replicated enum. So when somebody joins and they happen to join and they're in the in game stage, that would update. That is beyond the scope of this. That's actually that is like in-game fine-tuning, handling things like join in progress and that sort of thing. So we're not going to cover that. But if you restrict this to basically making sure that people can only join when they're when the game is actually either before it started or while it's in progress, you're going to be good to go right here. Okay, so we'll handle our we'll handle our this controller logic later. Let's go back to the game state and let's finish up there. Okay, so we notified our players of the honor, and then we're going to break all the taboos right here because we are going to actually use a delay node. So let's put in the delay node, and I'll explain why. Proper use of the delay node here. And we will say end game time. Okay, that. All right, and that end game time should be. Let's see. 10. Get there. 10 seconds. So that's how long. So after you notify players that the game is ended, they're gonna have a screen that's gonna pop up. And maybe I wasn't explanation enough when we did that event that had the client. That will effectively take this notify players of winner. Once you get into here, this right here when it says replicated to owning client, that is so you can get things like widget events and all of these things. Because otherwise, the client doesn't know when the game is over. So this is a good way to let them know is by sending this event. So it goes from server to client. Anyway, after you do that, everybody's going to have their screens up. Okay, like in-game screen, they're going to see which was the winning team, and whatever other data you want to add in there. And then for a time, the game is just gonna hang there. It's gonna delay. It doesn't matter how many times this gets called. It's going to ignore them because it's not a retriggerable delay. It's just a normal delay. And then after that is done, then we're going to go ahead and reset our game. So I apprehensive to use delay nodes a lot of the time because most people will just put in a delay node because they'll have a racing condition, which is what we covered at the very beginning of all these tutorials where we're like, well, not necessarily here, but in the capture points where we were like, hey, wait for this variable to be initialized. Well, they're doing it a very sloppy way, and they'll just slap a delay node in there. Who knows if the variable's ready? They're just getting lucky, and network times can increase significantly if you're playing with people across the country or across the world. So that's not when you use a delay node. When you use delay node is either you're doing something graphical or whatever, or in a situation like this, we could also use a timer, but I'm going to use delay here because I think it's perfectly reasonable. So let's add a custom event. Reset game. Let's actually call it. Now, as you've seen throughout this whole tutorial, I have been making sure that I keep these nodes over to the left. There's an important reason for that, because if let's say we left this event right here, and somebody was trying to debug what was going on, they wouldn't know. They would see, okay, we got 3 events here. We're having a bug. It has to do with, resetting. I'm not exactly sure, looking at this, where resetting might take place. Well, wouldn't it be so much nicer if every event was aligned to our left here, like you would if you were writing any paper? And it's just like in school, right? You get a piece of paper, and yeah, technically you could write anywhere you want on the paper, just like we have here. You could do code anywhere you want, but why would you do that? Because it makes sense to start where you normally start, like on the left side, go to the right side, or whatever your normal is in your language. Like you wouldn't just start in the middle of the paper. You wouldn't just put this event at the end of here. That would be insane. Yet I see it all the time. So don't do that. Make your stuff left aligned, and even better, at least add comment boxes. And even better than that, add comments to your comment boxes so everybody knows exactly what's going on. Okay, so we do this, and now we're going to reset our game. Okay, once again, let's do our has authority. Going to add another custom event. Nope, my bad. I don't want to do that here. I want to add a function. Set all players for endgame. Get our trusty player array. Whoa. Loop through it. Check that it's valid. Okay, so you could decide whether this is good or bad. We could either do it the way we're about to do it, or we could handle this using dispatchers, where each class would listen for this event. Since we only have a couple things right here we're going to do, I'm going to do it the way I'm going to do it, and you're going to see it, but just know that you could also do this all with dispatchers. So, and you'll learn a lot about dispatchers once we get onto the widget portion of this tutorial. Let's get our pawn this time. Let's cast to our third-person character. Let's cast to BP, maybe? There it is. Player array, got our pawn, cast a third-person character. And then from here, we want to reset our character, but we don't have the event for it. So let's go into our character real quick. All right, we got a bunch of stuff that came with the engine. And a custom event. Reset character. All right, we're going to leave that alone for the time being. All right, go back. Oops, let's go back to our game state. Call it. Right, that's done. Now that we've handled the thing we wanted to do on our character, let's handle the thing we want to do on our controller. So we can move over here. Sequence. And like we did before, if we're at a player state and we want to get our controller, we simply have to say get the owner. Let's cast to capture flag player controller. And just say reset controller, which isn't going to be there, so we have to add it. So let's go to our controller. Okay, we have our controller. We want to also replicate this down to the client. So set replicate, run on owning client, make it reliable. Reliable means that it will always run, no matter how bogged down things get. Even if it causes your system to hitch, it will do it. Okay, we got our reset controller. And this is why I said you could have had a dispatcher, because what you could have had here was like a reset all player dispatcher, and then the character could have bound to it, and then the controller could have bound to it, and then when that event was received, they could have done their own thing, or we could do what we just did here and specifically call those events on those classes. Either one's fine. Not one is more right than the other. But you could have gone either route, just so you know. Okay, let's back up to our event graph. So let's call it reset all players for endgame. Great, we have it. Now let's reset our capture points. So let's do another function here. Yeah, let's get our capture points now. And actually, I'm going to go back. I'm going to call it. You just wait. You think this is crazy, me going back here to call these all the time? When you do this, if you don't do that, you'll forget. I always do. Okay, so go to, let's see, capture points. And maybe you won't forget because, I'm here saying do it. But like when you start making really in-depth functions, you'll get so into them. You'll be like, oh, yeah, that's why it didn't work. I didn't even call the dang thing. I just spent an hour making. So it's just a funny thing that happens. Okay, so for each of these points, we want to do something. We want to reset the team progress on each one. So let's make sure we have an event there on the capture point to do that. So let's compile. Let's save what we got so far. Let's back out to our world here. Save all. Let's go to here. And I don't think we got to reset capture points yet. Or reset team progress. That's what I meant to say. Let's see. Reset team progress. All right. We got our team progress right here. I'm sorry, we're going to set. Team progress set. Very important. We got the authority node. I'm not going to check if it's changed or not because this is a reset sort of thing. Not a big deal. So make team progress struct. We're going to say no team is taking the progress. So that way our points go back to their default for the start of the next round. Okay, let's go back to our game state. Let's call reset team progress. All right, easy. That one's done. Almost caught myself here. Let's see. Went through these points. We're calling a function on the points. What do we need to do? There we go. It is valid. Okay, we're back here. Now let's reset our team scores. So, our team scores. For each loop. Break the team score struct. We're gonna set the array element. Oh. I could split. Let's just split. How do I want to do this? Then we just leave that 0. Okay, and then set the element. Or no, the team scores. Okay, let's recap what I'm doing here because I've been mumbling about it. Okay, we're looping through our team scores. These are both team scores down here. I just did it for clarity. Okay, we're looping through all the team scores. We get the team that we're looping through. Let's hide the unconnected one. We're passing through the index, so we're setting that team score to 0. And then after we do that for all the teams, we're going to set them because of that weird bug there is. And the reason, or maybe it's not a bug, it doesn't call the notify. And the reason I'm not using a has authority here, because this reset team scores is in that line of functions that have that authority check earlier. I didn't do this for all of them. Actually, a lot of them I already had an internal authority check. I think that's a little redundant. I'll leave it up to you whether you think you need an authority check here. If you have any other way somebody would be calling this function, then I would put an authority check here. But right now I can't think of one, so I'm not putting an authority check because, once again, the event that calls these already has that check. And I know in some cases we were redundant and we did do that, but that's because I figured, well, there was a higher probability somebody might call that function from a client. Okay, and then when we're all done, we want to go ahead and start the score tick. Or wait, did we do it all? Let me make sure we did it all here. We got reset all players, reset capture points. Reset team scores. Didn't I just say something about that? How did I not call that? All right, reset team scores and then start score tick. Okay. And that will, so if you think about the whole loop that we just did here, we were checking our score. We determined if there was a winning team or not. Most times they're not going to be, but sometimes you're going to have a winner. And then you're going to stop the scoring timer from going on. You're going to notify everybody the winner, and you're going to wait a while. Then you're going to reset the game. And when you reset the game, you're going to null everything out, and you're going to start the timer again. And one of the character functions that we made that didn't fill out, we're going to get the characters back to their starting positions and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and comment this up and go on to the characters and get those all set up